Welcome to the Assist Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Schwartz, and I've been talking about it in every episode, but here we are. We are in our final installment of the sports preview series for the fall of 2020. And I mean, guys, it might be the best one. I mean, we're bringing in a British lad here. Of course, you already know who I'm talking about, to break down the English Premier League. I mean, what can get more on the nose than that? It is my great and excellent friend, Will Shearon, joining me today to talk all things English Premier League with the season starting this Saturday. Will, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Zach. Thank you very much for having me on, and it's always a pleasure. And you made me chuckle there a little bit with having your British lad on, but I'll just provide my pointless insight into the Premier League. But I hope it's some knowledge for those out there, and to share my passion of the game. And like you, I'm excited for another season, a different season coming after this pandemic. How we'll equate. Maybe it'll be different without fans. So then we'll see the trickle of fans coming in. Hopefully, touch wood, if we keep moving forward with our progressions to beat this nasty virus. But I think it'll be a great season. I think there's some really interesting signings, some really interesting business that's gone on. And I think we'll be in for a really interesting year.
Yeah, I mean, I joke about the British thing, but I think we both know that over the years, your accent has lended you some a little bit of leeway in certain situations. It gives you some authenticity here, which is good. But yeah,
got me out of a lot of trouble too, so I can't complain with that. Put the accent on. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Didn't mean to say that. Oh, never mind, Will. Don't you worry. I keep calling him an expletive under the table, but it's fine.
That's perfect right there. Just you maximizing your gifts. That's what I call that right there. But yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be a much more exciting season, just in the sense of a title race for sure. Coming off of Liverpool's barnstorming year last year, cruising to that title. So I guess the first question I will pose to you on this episode, because it's an interesting question, as you said, a lot of additions to sides in the top 5-6 clubs of the traditional elk. How many title challengers do you realistically see?
Title challenges. I mean, I think it goes almost back to the classic top four of Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal. I think, you kind of come into the play of maybe Man United in their front three. You've got City coming there. But quite honestly, I can see a top 7 doing business and really gunning for it. I'm going to put my money out here now. I don't think Liverpool are going to win the league this year. I think they're a very good club. I think they've got the talent in there to still do absolute bits, don't get me wrong. But I think or even if they do win it, which I, God forbid, hope they don't, because obviously being an Everton fan myself, that they don't. But ultimately, I think it'll be a closer race. I think that Chelsea have done marvellous pieces of business with the just amazing amount of money that they've had to spend this summer. City have made some interesting business calls, but still the depth and the talent that they have, I think they'll still do very, very well. I think Arsenal have got a shout to stay in the top 4. I don't think they'll win it. I think United have enough going forward that they can score the goals, but this depends on their defence. And if you're looking through as well, I think Spurs can fight for Europe. They won't win it. So I'd probably say there's a good 7 for Europe that I think I can place. And as well, if you look at Everton as well, what a window we've had. We've got a whole new midfield to take over our black hole in the middle, so that I can't complain about. So we'll dive into that. But if I was to predict now, who do I think is going to pip the league? My money on paper is to go towards Chelsea. And that pains me to say too. But I think it might go Chelsea, Liverpool, City, United. That's what I'm thinking my top 4 would be. How about yourself, Zach? What do you think?
Well, we are going to have some disagreements here. This is going to be good. This is going to be good. Okay. Manchester City had such a weird season last year, even with Kevin De Bruyne picking up the Premier League Player of the Year, or whatever they call it, PFA, I believe. PFA. Which is correct. I think he's the best player in the Premier League from his position. David Silva leaves, which is a problem for the Citizens, because David Silva has been an integral part of that side for years. Ferran Torres, good bit of business there for Man City. I think Phil Foden's going to take a big step forward in midfield as well for them. I think we're really going to get out there. And I think the key is, for them at least, does Nathan Ake gel? Because their City's defense last year with Fernandinho, 36-year-old man playing center back, was horrid, as you could expect with injuries to Laporte and stuff. So I'm just going to bet that City. I mean, I just think off a poor title challenge last year to Liverpool, I think they're going to come back and win it this year. It just seems like they're the deepest squad. What I think is that I may not be considering is that they're so desperate for a Champions League at this point, they might push towards the Champions League rather than League, which is always possible. But I just think that City is going to end up doing this. And even people have made a big deal about Pep's contract expiring next season. Even when Barcelona, when he was starting to find his time at the end there, in Bayern Munich as well, Pep would deliver leagues, the season-long competitions like it was nothing. So I'll take City there. I just expect a regression from Liverpool. They were so good. They were so good. And what scares me is, even though it's Klopp, and Klopp is the best manager probably in the world right now, I don't think I'm going too far to say that. They have an excellent side. They did absolutely nothing in the transfer window, except for a reserve signing for Andy Robertson. As we've seen with a lot of these title challengers in the past, if you add nothing, everyone gets cushy, and comfortable. It becomes a problem. I don't think they fall too far. I think they fall to third, but I do expect regression there for Liverpool, which I think will cheer you up a little bit there.
I completely agree with that. I think City as well. Going back there, you've got the likes of Pep Guardiola, who is just an absolute genius of the game. But De Bruyne is fantastic. The other thing is, what I've noticed with City is people figured them out last year. People have figured out Liverpool. You have Watford, who went down, picked them apart last year. Granted, you could argue they were fighting for Europe, but they still got beaten there too by Atletico. Mm-hmm. You look at the points of, going back to City, I think they will have a hint of, we need to win this Champions League. They, quite honestly, I think they bottled it this year. I think they really, really scuppered it. And, it happens. It happens. You're not always going to win. You bring a great point about with Nathan Ake. I think he's a fantastic centre-half. But is he going to fall just into rotation? Will he just move around? Will they just play a constant continuation? Yes, Laporte, unfortunately, has the horrid COVID-19 virus right now. Will he be cleared? When can he come back into the squad? And this is a whole other health thing we've got going on at the moment, is the availability of players. It's not just the flu that you can go, we can get over this one, I'll be good by Saturday. No, this is really serious. That might be a factor. I think as well, Ferran Torres, great piece of business. Pablo Moreno's not bad. You look again, you go, okay, fair enough. Besides that, you've lost a lot of players here. You lost the likes of Leroy Sané, and granted he was injured last year. Great player. Jack Harrison, who will be on loan again at Leeds, is a fantastic player. He's English, brought up in the States. He's done very well in the past. He had a fantastic season with Leeds. Great pickup for Leeds. I personally think Leeds are going to be safe. I think they're going to end up about, I'd hope, 12th. I like Leeds. I think they'll be all right. But you're moving through. You look at, when you talked into business as well. Look at Chelsea's window, for example. Chelsea have brought in Timo Werner, fantastic, from Leipzig. He scores goals for fun. Hakim Ziyech had a fantastic Champions League as well at Ajax. He's a great player. I agreed with that deal, and we knew that was coming in a while. Great player. I think their midfield's going to have a big shake-up this year, by the way. I think, unfortunately, Mason Mount may be the first one off the bench, but he'll also get his chances too. I think he's a great player himself. But you've got the likes of Kai Havertz coming in from Leverkusen. Unbelievable numbers that he's had. You've got experience is what Chelsea needs in the back line with Thiago Silva. Yes, we won't see him in the first week, because I believe he's just entering training, as we speak. But I think, he'll lead from the back and show that experience that I think, quite honestly, they've been lacking since John Terry. I think they're now going to have someone who's got, that under his belt and go, look at what we've done. I think Ben Chilwell was a decent pickup. I think he's a good player. He'll do well from the left back. Get rid of Alonso. I think that's another dead wood there. But But you look again, you've lost Willian, you've lost Pedro that you've had for years, you've lost Chabala, who's been a good player. You've got some other ones out on loan. And then Michy Batshuayi went to Palace today on loan. Great player again. But look at the business. Their loan spells are enormous of how many people they have out on loan. But I think the players they've brought in will fill the gaps. I think they'll be hitting the nails on the head. And if they can gel together and get a system down, I think we'll see some really interesting football there.
So I'm going to give you a little pushback on Chelsea here because I know you have them winning the league. I have them in 4th. So I want to make the case against them, falling out a little early. All the players you highlighted are amazing players coming in, right? I am concerned about them being a full squad in the sense that this is the shortest amount of time we've ever had in between seasons. The last season just ended. So I think you're seeing a lot of this with the NFL starting up this week as well, is that the continuity will be rewarded. And especially when you get to the forward position, like if Werner can't get the ball from service, what's going to happen there, even though you're right, he does score goals for fun, literally. I also think with, the midfield, obviously, Havertz coming in. Ross Barkley looked better. Conte is a little lost last year in Frank Lampard's system, but I think that they're going to be okay there. Their back 5 terrifies me. Rudiger played very well last year. Like I said, Chilwell, great pickup. I'm worried about the continuity there as well. But I look now, and right now, correct me if I'm wrong, on their right side, they're starting Zuma at center half and Azpilicueta at right back, right?
Yep, they should be. I think they're comfortable players, but I'm interested to hear what you think.
And then the goalkeeping situation. It's the worst kept secret in football among England. I mean, they're probably going to start Caballero, right? Because that's who Lampard went with in the biggest games. Which, I'm sorry, Caballero is just not going to win you the league. So unless Kepa rediscovers, and I know you know this, more being a goalkeeper at the collegiate level here in America. I mean, when a goalkeeper loses their form and loses the confidence of the manager, I mean, it takes a long time to come back for that. And obviously the season's going to be a long grind this year. But I wish if they signed a center half, it could have been Koulibaly, it could have been really anybody. I would feel so much better about them, but I'm not convinced they're going to fix their defensive problems. I remember I talked about it with Kyle Milner after we wrapped up the Premier League pod from a couple weeks ago. If you look at the table from last year, there's a pretty consistent amount of mark in the goals allowed, and then Chelsea are like 15 more than any of the teams near them. You have to go down to 10th to find the next highest team. And I wonder if their defensive issues will be fixed. That's concerning for me.
I think you raise a great point because a couple of things that I'd like to address. So one, as you mentioned about being a goalkeeper, finding form is hard. Kepa's going to be shaken around. Is the Premier League maybe the best league for him? Not sure. But I think Chelsea are going to end up with another goalkeeper in January. I think they're going to give it till Christmas. I think they're going to see. And I think they're going to hope that they've got enough power moving forward, that every team will have played them probably once by then, that they've got enough to break the goals forward. It's going to be hard. You've got new talent that no one in the Premier League's seen before in the likes of Havertz. You've got Thiago Silva. You've got, Timo Werner. Yeah, you can bang in goals for fun. But again, I think I personally take the risk on saying that they'll come first because I haven't seen them in proven Premier League talent. They may really suffer. That is still a huge possibility. England is a very, very different and difficult place to come and play football. And I think you've raised a great point with the goalkeeping situation too. Caballero, I personally think he's had a very admirable career. I think he's done very well, but he's getting on now. Is he going to be a title contender? No. Is Kepa? If he can find his form, maybe. But we haven't seen that in a while now. He's got a whole different back line. Maybe it's a different man management. Maybe it's a language thing. But he looked tough. And I've seen a few clips of him in the past where he's had some really, really challenging times. There was one against Liverpool you can hear with the no fans and without the fake commentary. Everyone's going, Kappa, 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 like, come out for the ball. And he doesn't. He sits on his line. And that is the key sign of lack of confidence. If you go back 8-9 months, that man would have been picking those things out of the air for fun. Any cross. But he didn't. And Liverpool very nearly scored. And I think, that's a really good point to bring up. I hope Chelsea do all right. I think with the money that they've spent, hopefully. But I think it also does run at risk of backfiring. And that's why I'd like them to come first. It'll be somewhat different than we haven't seen in a few years. I think the likes of Christian Pulisic, I think it'd be great for him. I think he's a fantastic player. And that's coming from an English person. I think he has proven himself already in the Premier League. If he walked into the FA Cup, he scored early on. He looked lively. And even when he did pull his hamstring, he was determined to get that shot off. And although it went wide, granted he had a pulled hamstring, if he hadn't, I think he would have buried it and gone on to get a couple more. That's not to say that Arsenal look good. I think Arsenal look good too. But, moving to my club, Everton, I think we've got some really interesting business. We've got, first of all, Carlo Ancelotti and his new project. He's come in with a team that has really suffered after poor business over the last 4 or 5 years now. And he's got to rebuild this. I joked before about having the black hole in the middle. But there was nothing there. There was games where you'd look at the passing routes and there truly wasn't even a pass forward. Then you go, okay, so what can we do? We now have a Premier League proven midfielder who did very well with the assist with Watford, who struggled, but he did extremely well in Decore. I think he'll do well. He's got to team up with Luca Digne, who is also a French national player. They play together at youth level. I think they'll do quite well together. You've got Allen, who's played very well for Napoli, able to play that CDM role. And I think he will be another big part. He was able to wrap up with the, not Coppa Italia, but ultimately their equivalent, the FA Cup. I can never remember what it's called, and it's completely gone off the top of my head. But they won. They beat Juventus, in that final. They look good. He looked good. And then finally, you've got James Rodriguez, who in the past and over the years has been fantastic as a midfielder, and he's scored goals. Can he do it in England? That's another question. I notice a lot of players come down, they'll get targeted, quite honestly, these tough teams. But I think Ancelotti has got now the manpower built around a midfield that wants to score. And hopefully, this will unleash Richarlison to have a fantastic season. I hope it unleashes the likes of Calvert-Lewin to start banging in those goals at the back post. And we've got rid of a lot of weight over the years that needed to go. If I look through the list, I can think off the top of my head. Morgan Feeney's young, he'll do quite well somewhere else, but not quite yet for Everton. You've got Matty Folds, same thing. You've got the likes of Luke Garbutt, just never broke into the team, unfortunately, with injuries. You've got the likes of Omar Niasse, just still couldn't clinch it. Cuco Martina, I thought was a pointless signing and a terrible bit of business. Morgan Schneiderlin, useless. Leighton Baines, absolute club legend, and fair play to him in his retirement, and I wish him all the best. Same with Scatlenberg, he went back to his home club Ajax after sitting on the bench behind Pickford for a number of years, but he's a World Cup runner-up. Kieran Dowell, I think, was a mistake. I think we should have kept him. Selling him to Norwich was an interesting move. I think he's a really good goal, and I wouldn't be surprised if Norwich end up coming back up. But look at the weight, and I can still name you another 4 or 5 that are still going to be on the payroll that I think, personally, we don't need. But that's just me and my club and what I think. But I think it'll be interesting. I think it'll be a really interesting season. I think there'll be a number of things coming out of the cracks. I think Leeds will do quite well. I don't think Fulham will survive. I don't know about West Brom. I think if anyone was to put their money on who's going to stay up, I think it'd be Leeds. But it will be a really great chase, and I think each game will be stuck in, hard fought, and interesting.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned there, you went through it way more extensively than I could. Everton being the bad bit of business they've had for years. I think the James Rodriguez signing for around that 20-25 billion euro range is the perfect type of chance that they've really been missing out on recently for a club of that stature that in the recent past would challenge the established top 6 for European places and such like that. And I think it's a perfect signing. I project improvement for Everton. I think they'll be hanging around those Europa League spots. I don't know if they'll be able to pip Wolves and Arsenal for them. And that's who I have in front of them. But it's possible. I could definitely see it. I don't think it's ridiculous. Hanging on to Richarlison was very important. If Calvert-Lewin could get going again this year like he did last year, I mean, I think Everton, have a real chance at improvement, which is something that your Toffees have not really had in the past couple of years. And, of course, Ancelotti is a grade A manager as well, so they have that as well. In terms of Leeds, I mean, I think they'll be Sheffield United of last year, and I actually have them right around that Sheffield territory, 10th, 11th, 12th, right in there. I just think Bielsa is one of the best managers we've seen a promoted side bring up recently. Mm-hmm. They just, obviously they showed, they have a different stature than most clubs who are promoted for the first time in 20 years or so. And they've proved it because they just went out and bought Rodrigo from Valencia, a very established striker, number 9, who's going to go out and be good for 10, 15 goals straight away. And that's something that a lot of clubs, a la Norwich last year, struggle with coming up to the Premier League as goal scoring. So them getting Rodrigo is awesome. And they also bolstered the back by signing Robin Koch as well at center back. So I think Leeds are making smart business. They're not pulling a Fulham of 4 or 5 years ago, or no, like 2 years ago. Sorry, where they spent a ton of money, went straight down, and I just for shits and giggles, I think I take Fulham in 17th position, just ahead of, I feel like West Ham will be a disaster this season. That's my team. I feel like West Ham and Brighton. I think the teams that you almost feel like are established in the Premier League, a la Bournemouth of last year, to unfortunately go down. I mean, somebody has to do it. Sadly.
I agree. I think, again, great points there. Great analysis of Leeds. Bielsa has done wonders with them over the few years. He's been patient with them as well, which is what I think is also big. And now this is his chance. And I hope they do well. I truly do hope they do well. West Ham, I'm glad you brought this up. I've had an absolute shocker of a window. And it's been quite embarrassing. If I'm looking through their list of who's in and who's out, the only name I recognise is Pablo Zabaleta, who is probably close to 40 and he's being released. You've got Thomas Susek from Slavia Prague, who's not bad, right? I actually think he's quite good. I think he'll get them a few goals this year. But you are West Ham United. You've been, you are a famous London club. You're playing in the London Stadium, which was the old Olympic Stadium in 2012. You have an almost obligation to stay up. You look at the old Upton Park's gone because you had the money to move in. You have an obligation to stay up. I think you bring up a great point. Maybe they'll unfortunately do a Bournemouth, who I wish the absolute best for, and I hope Bournemouth were able to bounce back up because I quite like them in the Prem. Brighton still blows my mind how they've actually managed to hold on for dear life for a number of years now, but they're actually not bad, as much as I laugh about it. But you know who else I think who are going to have an interesting year? And my roommate who supports them will probably be disappointed in me, but I think he'll also agree, is Wolves. I think Wolves were phenomenal last year. I really think they were. And they brought in some good names, that be most of them being Portuguese, to fulfill the Portuguese national team that's being built in Wolverhampton at the moment, which is always comical. But to be honest with you, they're quite good. If they can pull off Bruno Fernandes one day, this is all out the window. But they won't. But on a serious note, though, them losing Matt Doherty, I think, is a massive loss for them. I think Connor Cody's a fantastic centre-half, and I think he'll be the one that keeps them ticking around a mid-table team. But I don't think we'll see that push for Europe as much. Hopefully Troyer gets involved. Besides that, you've got younger talent. I think they're not bad. Fabio Silva looks good on paper from Porto. But again, young. But I think losing a defender, Matt Doherty, who was so dominant at the wings, is going to be interesting. But again, the thing is with Wolves is they were beatable. They were always beatable.
Yeah.
And they haven't built upon it. If you're looking at the likes of Liverpool, who unfortunately, and it pains me to say this, Zach, it really does, were quite tough to beat for a very long time. They almost can maybe get away with a lack of ins. As you said, they've got a reserve right back for Robertson now from Olympiacos. What are they going to do? And the other one is Villa. I think Villa might do all right. If they can pull off the Ryan Brewster from Liverpool, who's a centre forward, if Aston Villa can pull him off and pull him in as a forward, I think I'll have my money on them staying up. because Ollie Watkins, I think, is a very, very good player. I think you've got enough leadership. I like Dean Smith. I think John Terry, if he's still staying there as an assistant, can get the experience behind the locker room to say, come on. I like Tyrone Mings. I think Mohammedy's not bad. I think Douglas Luiz is all right. And then, of course, Jack Grealish was a huge saving grace for them to keep. But I tell you what, if they're struggling by January, and with Jack Grealish's England situation, where he almost didn't get called up, they took the lad from Leeds over him, Calvin Phillips, who again isn't bad, but I think was a mistake. They didn't take Jack Grealish in the initial 23 to go in the Nations League. They went through injury, they saw what happened. And after Gareth Southgate saying, quote, Jack Grealish needs more Premier League experience, I thought that was a poor decision and unprofessional to take a championship player. But my point is here, if Villa struggle, I would be interested to see if he hangs around in January. Granted, he's got the boyhood club that he wants to be with behind him, and hopefully they have that going for them, Villa. But if the likes of Man United go, tell you what we could use in the middle here, I'm not sure if we'll see him there. And that might be Villa's fault, because they have a lot to thank for him last year.
Yeah, he's one of the top probably 10 playmakers in the Premier League. It is very rare.
Really?
Yeah, for a newly promoted player last year to have that type of pedigree, but Grealish carries it. I love that he hit on Mings. I love Tyrone Mings. He is fantastic for them in the center half, and I'm projecting that they hang on to Grealish, especially with the fact that we're going to use this as a transition to Manchester United in a second. Manchester United just signed Van den Beek from Ajax to shore up the rest of their midfield there, because I have Man United takes, if you're willing to listen. I have Aston Villa in 14th. Right between Burnley and Newcastle. I think they'll be a safe side by the end of the season. But of course,
that's a good prediction.
Yeah.
I like Villa, and I hope they do stay up. That's a good prediction. I like that. I like that number, and I wish I'd done my list through 20 now, more in person. Really thought this through, but listening to your takes too, they're interesting, and I think that's the beauty of it. But I want to hear what you say about United. Now I'm interested to hear what you say as well.
Yeah, honestly, the middle of the table wasn't fun to figure out, so maybe you're happy that you didn't do 20. I had Manchester United second. I had Liverpool and I had Chelsea. Honestly, the difference between them and Chelsea, to me, one is a little bit of continuity. They obviously went on a killer streak last year to qualify in third for the Champions League at the end of the pre-pandemic season. Then once they picked up again after. I don't want to say after the pandemic, it's still going on. Whatever. When they came back after the break, we'll go with that. Bruno Fernandes, top 5
Unreal.
Premier League player, maybe?
Real.
During the pandemic,
came in
right?
January.
Yeah.
And he came in January.
Yeah. I love Van den Beek from, I think I'm saying that name right, I don't know, whatever, the guy from Ajax, the midfielder.
Donny van der Beek?
Yes.
Yep.
Rashford took up in Greenwood. Really played to another level last year, so that's a formidable front three. So now you can trot out den Beek, Pogba, and Fernandes in your midfield. And the thing to me that gives them the security over Chelsea is Harry Maguire. Class A center back there. Of course, he's been in a little bit of legal trouble recently, but we don't necessarily
naughty.
We don't need to touch on that. All right, this is a sports only podcast. It really isn't, but we're just gonna. I just don't know enough about the situation to comment. Lindelof scares me a little bit, but I'm gonna take one grade A center back over none for Chelsea for me. And I'm sorry, I don't want to hear the Thiago Silva. I know you mentioned Thiago Silva already. We don't have to talk about him anymore. But he's like 85. And that's that. But no, I'm pretty high on Manchester United. I think they will pose a formidable challenge to Manchester City this year. And I could be proven dead wrong, but it's got to be. You're taking Chelsea on this side of the coin. It's got to be Manchester United or Chelsea is going to provide a big challenge. It's not going to be a 2-horse race this year. So pick your poison, whether you want United or Chelsea. You're going with the Blues. I'm going with the Devil Reds.
And that, oh God, I've never liked Man United. This is always a challenge. I think anyone from the Northwest that doesn't support Man United is probably in agreement here. And remember, my family's from the Northwest. My dad's an Evertonian. My mum supports the other side of town, as some call it Liverpool, but fair enough. They are pretty good, I guess. And obviously, I grew up being blue because why would I ever support Liverpool? And then obviously I moved to Newcastle, as you know.
So I've always followed them as well. And they have some interesting business, and we'll get to that as well. But going to United, again, you've lost some decent talent here, but you've brought in Donny van de Beek, good player. Apparently had a bit of a rough start in pre-season, but that's okay. And then you've brought in Igalo again on loan, good player, keep him. But Harry Maguire's been a naughty boy. You've got the likes of Mason Greenwood's also been a naughty boy and kicked off the England squad with Phil Foden. Just Manchester things. Anyway, I think there's a sense of, for them, maturity. Maguire at one point was wearing the captain's armband for a bit in United. That I think is going to struggle, but I think he's a great player. So hopefully he gets his life together and sorted that out. Hopefully Greenwood, well, I know he's apologised. Hopefully he comes forward and figures some things out too. But ultimately, you're looking at some of the names here. I think Scott McTominay is a great player too. I really like him. But again, goalkeeping situation for Man United is always interesting as well. You've got now the likes of Dean Henderson, who's just signed a contract at Man United. He's from Manchester himself. What do you think here? What do you think De Gea is going to do? Because De Gea looked in, for lack of a better term, in pretty rough shape. If I'm not going to lie about what he looked like at the end of last year. He struggled in the cup run of the FA Cup, which Arsenal ended up winning. He had two major errors in the semi-final. And again, don't get me wrong, mistakes happen. But do you, if you're Man United, take him off your payroll? You've got Dean Henderson at almost a third of the pay of him and just sell him and put all your faith in him? Or do you keep him? Which there seems like they're going to keep him for a little bit. And that's okay. But it's interesting to see where it's going to go from here. What's going to happen? And what are they going to do?
Yeah, I say you got to sell him.
I think, personally, if you're Man United or Ed Woodward, who's got his own mad ideas, you should sell him. You should absolutely sell him. Take cash in where you can. Get what you can for him. But besides that, I think Wan-Bissaka, solid. Great player at the back. You've got the likes of Harry Maguire, is all right. You switch over to Bruno Fernandes, who is, it just pains me to say, phenomenal. You've got Martial, Greenwood, Rashford. You've got a fantastic front line, and you've got the depth. McTominay is massive when you need him. He's a big lad, and he can get in the way. I think they'll do some damage, and maybe, just maybe, someone will knock Liverpool off their merry high horse, who think they're all high and mighty, when actually they bottled a load of games. They bottled Europe. They bottled their domestic cup runs, but they did win the league, in fairness to them. But they still didn't didn't do the home record when they dropped points to Burnley at home, which was pretty funny. And they also didn't go undefeated because they lost, not one, not two, but 3-0 to Watford. Yep. And you can say whatever you want to say about European nights. That was a lack in their defence. And I think as much as Klopp has, I will praise him, he is a fantastic manager. He's got that dressing room in line. They lacked. And I think you've now got the likes going, okay, it's not going to be a two-horse race. I think this is going to be a true race now. Maybe 4 major contenders. And I think it'll be interesting.
De Gea should go to Chelsea.
He should. It's a better move for him. Not a bad move for him at all. No, I know they won't sell him to him. It's not a bad move.
Yeah, no way. But Dean Henderson, I think, is pretty clear the Manchester United #1, politics aside, because Sheffield United, he was fantastic for them last year for the Blades. So it should be pretty clear there. But I have Liverpool in third. We've already hinted at a lot of stuff with them on the pod already. I don't think we need to touch on it anymore. They're another team that just next to Van Dijk, who's playing? Lovren's gone. Who's gonna play?
Injury pro Joe Gomez, I think.
Oh my God! Well, there you go. Maybe I move them down a bit more. No, I just expect regression for them, and we've already talked about them a lot. So we can move on to the Battle of North London. I don't know. So in my initial write down here, it's in pencil, so we'll see. I have Tottenham 5th in their position, of course, and Arsenal 6th. because there's a lot. There's if you read us some stuff, not that Arsenal's going to make the Champions League or anything, that people aren't saying that, but like a lot of people have Arsenal in 5th, have them being a lot of frisky, and like I like Mikel Arteta, obviously won the Community Shield, won the FA Cup, making progress. Aubameyang looks set to stay, which is a big deal for that club. They signed some strength at the back with Gabriel and stuff like that coming in. 5th seems a lot for Arsenal. Of course, I put them at 6th, so maybe I'm splitting hairs. But 5th just seems like a lot, doesn't it? Or am I off? Are you higher on Arsenal than I am?
I think I might have them a little bit higher because they are aggressive top 4.
All
Arteta,
right.
I think, and I really, really hope, because I like Arteta as a former Everton player, and I've always wished him the best. He was my boyhood idol growing up, and I wish him the best. I hope he does a Wenger. I hope he's there in the next 15, 20 years. He started to get a team together who's had really, really damaging parts of the season where they've had parts where they just truly fell to pieces. Almost back together. I didn't have them winning the FA Cup, but they did that in a really good fashion. I loved watching that FA Cup final. I thought it was great. Aubameyang, huge signing to keep hold of there. Really, really big. I think, Cedric Suarez is a great player. If you can bring him maybe alongside the infamous David Luiz and keep going on the centre-half thing, what are you going to do there? I think they'll be okay. Kieran Tierney, I really like. Hector Bellerin might need a bit more strength in there, but we'll see. Rob Holding, maybe he's on the move. I quite like him. I think he's got a bit more about him. We'll see what he does. You've got 2 fantastic goalkeepers. Leno, brilliant. And then Martinez proved himself massively at the end of the year when Leno went out with injury. But, moving forward, I think they'll do all right. But what if? And I think the Arsenal's is what if? And what I mean by that is, for instance, if you lose Emi Martinez, who almost and arguably deserves consistent first-team football now, because you've picked Leno, what happens? Because Villa like the look of him. I think he'd do very well at Villa. I think it would absolutely bode well in your case to keep them up. I think if Arsenal have a couple of injuries, they're going to be in trouble pretty quick. And I think that's the what-if factor with them. Otherwise, on paper, if you look at the first 11, they'll do very well. I think they could be a top 4. Maybe 5. I think I'd realistically put them at 5. But again, I think, maybe they do fall below Spurs. And I really don't like Spurs, so I'm completely fine if Arsenal stay above. But Spurs, because I like Mourinho, they've done decent business here. Højbjerg coming in from Southampton, the Danish international. Good player. Good player. Played very well for Southampton. He'll do all right. Matt Doherty, although him being an Arsenal fan, I'm sure you saw his announcement video, went to Spurs. Great player, though. I think he'll slot right back into the team. Joe Hart brings a level of experience. I'm not saying he'll start over Lloris, but behind and be a part of that Spurs to challenge Lloris, keep him on his toes. I think Gazabianga is a great player too. You've got a good goalkeeping situation there. What are they going to do? Do they bring that experience? And maybe he's just a locker room guy at this point, which pains me to say as a former England international, but he's all right. This man was shutting down Messi a couple of years ago when he was at City in goal. Is he going to keep Lloris on his toes? Because personally, I don't rate Lloris. I don't think he's very good. That's not besides the fact he's French. I just don't think I think he's got some days where he's very good. I think his feet are quite mediocre for a player of his talent. Yeah, he's won a World Cup. But let's remember his World Cup final. He did a Karius and kicked it right into, I think it was Benzema on the day.
Yeah.
Not Benzema, excuse me. Mandzukic for Croatia.
Yes.
It's 4-2. What are you doing? Granted, he unfortunately had a horrible injury last year, but he did it off a mistake. There's some things like, okay, his reactions are world class. Don't get me wrong, he makes some world class saves. But I think Hart will keep. I don't think Hart will beat him out by any means, but I think Hart will keep him on his toes. I quite like the look of Gazabianga, and I think Spurs trusted him a lot last year. But looking at again, they've got some gaps to fill. Jan Vertonghen's gone. I thought he was a good player. you keep Alderweireld, that's fine. Kyle Walker-Peters, good player. He's moved to Southampton now. What happens there? I think, but the rest of them, I think they'll do all right. If I look through it, Harry Kane, great player. Stephen Bergman, really like the look of. I think Spurs have a better spine of a team than Arsenal. And I think that spine might carry them forward in the likes of Son and Ali as well. Just adding more vertebrae to the spine if we're going to use that analogy.
Yeah.
I think I would be on board with your idea of Spurs in 5th.
I think I'm flipping it.
Okay.
I forgot Tottenham was coached by Jose Mourinho, my mortal enemy in life, that he doesn't know about. I also I look at and I think Arsenal actually have, and this is shocking for me to say, a little bit more depth. I mean, it depends. I do think you mentioned at the end there, which I'm glad you did. A lot rests on Dele Alli, I think, because we know Harry Kane's awesome. We know Son is awesome. We know players like Lo Celso played very well last year, and Alderweireld is awesome, and Doherty, whatever. Get on and on, whatever. I could keep going.
Yeah.
Ali broke out 2-3 years ago, but has not taken the next step necessary. And I think a lot of people thought, this is the future captain of England, this guy's a superstar, type of thing, and he has not gotten back to that level. Of course, there's been some injuries involved, but he has not taken that extra level that Tottenham really need to start pushing again for the top 4. I feel like this year is just going to be Tottenham 5th, 6th, whatever, around there. I mean, I'll go on the record, say Arsenal 5th, Tottenham 6th, just for the purposes so people can yell at me later. I feel like Tottenham wins the FA Cup or something, or actually probably the League Cup. And then
their trophy room will still remain dry. I think it's funny.
Yeah, and Mourinho will be like, I won the League Cup. What do you mean? I am the special one. I am awesome. I actually suck and blah, blah. I blow up everything I see. So, I don't know if that was good Mourinho or not, but, he bothers me to no end. And I still remember just being stunned when Tottenham even hired him last year. So, I don't know what the club's doing. Either way, I think it's just interesting because I feel like Tottenham's going backwards as they move into the new stadium that's going to be empty, which is kind of funny. Arsenal's moving definitely more forwards. I think at the end of the day, both these two are well off the pace of the Champions League. I think we've hit on it already in the show. The top 4 is going to be the top 4, I feel like. There could be some surprises, but I think we're going to see some combination of the two Manchester clubs, Liverpool and Chelsea. In there. If you think Arsenal could get in there, okay, maybe. But I think that's just, it seems that, we'll have an interesting title race, but that run for 4th place, unless there's a major injury, which there could be, I don't see that being a big thing this year. It doesn't appear that way, at least, on the outset.
That's a good point. And now my question is, where do you put Everton? Because I put them as a top 6 challenger.
Yeah.
But will they do it? Maybe they do get in between Spurs and Arsenal. I'd love them to.
I can see it.
I think, in the past, I remember the days when David Moyes got us to the Champions League. It was hilarious. But, I think we could do that. It used to be a saying that outside the top 4, Everton were number 5.
Yep.
In recent years, we have not seen that at all. And I think if it's going to happen, it's going to be in the next couple of years. I think Ancelotti's project is up and rolling. I think he's going to do quite well with it. But what do you think there? What do you think? Do you think they'll involve between Spurs and Arsenal?
I don't think they'll go that high, but I think that type of prediction, if we talk, and we will, of course, in October, let's say, we've seen a couple matches of that new midfield that we mentioned, the whole new spray down. If James is the old James, Allen's back to his best form, coming in over into Merseyside, I could definitely be swayed to there. The thing that right now I wrote them down in pencil, at least in 9th. And the reason is because you have the big 6 that we talk about. I have Wolves and Leicester in front of them just because I've seen Wolves and Leicester. I know that team. I've seen them play to that level of possibly being in the Champions League before. Of course, Leicester, we talk about Liverpool bottling things at the end of the season. Leicester completely bottled the whole season. They were in second for a while. So I easily right now could sway and move them in front of Leicester pretty quickly. Like I said, if you give me 5 matches, I could flip that prediction easy. I just want to see how it gels first, if that makes sense. I need the proof of concept.
I agree. I think Leicester's another interesting club. I don't know if they're going to stay as where they are.
I
think Brendan
yeah.
Rodgers is great, but I think, Vardy's getting old.
Yep.
I think he's still going to bang in goals for fun, don't get me wrong. But I don't know.
Big step backward.
I don't know. Remember, they've been living their glory years for the last 4 or 5 now. It's mad that they won the league. It's absolutely bloody bonkers that Leicester City won the league. But they'll do fine. They'll stay up. I don't think that'll ever be a concern. But, I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
So my question is, what do you think about the bottom 3? What do you think?
Oh, man. So it's always tough because, I think it's always tough with the promoted sides now just because I don't get to watch a lot of the championship. I think it's going to be a 5-team race.
Okay.
Not really race, but whatever. Fight. I'm putting the cutoff at Newcastle in 15th. I think they'll be safe. And I promise you, I will give you the time as a former Newcastle resident here as we get closer to the end of the show to give your situation about their offseason, because goodness gracious, it was the most Newcastle thing in history. I have Crystal Palace 16th. I don't know where their goals are coming from. They have Zaha. He's upset. They signed Easy coming over there as a winger, I believe. Once again, I think a lot of times with these relegation things, it's super easy to just pick the 2 relegations or 2 newly promoted sides, and I don't know, the team that finished 17th, so this year to be Aston Villa, and those are the 3 that go down. But I think a little bit of this is thinking outside the box of which, as we talked about with Bournemouth, and as I've already mentioned with Brighton and West Ham, which teams that seem like they're pretty okay, and have been in the Premier League for a while, could the bottom fall out underneath them. I think Crystal Palace fits a bit of that bill. I think they'll survive, like I said, 16th. I think they'll find their way, but I think with 3 match days left, we'll be sweating a bit for Crystal Palace. I do. Fulham, I think, barely makes it just because of Clint Dempsey. I mean, I don't know. We're just going to go with Fulham. I think they've done it. They might have learned their lesson from 2 years ago. I have West Ham going down through that formula. I just feel like this club has been so disastrously run the recent years, and the problem with them is with how much money they spent last year. If they do go down, they are a candidate for the Portsmouth type fall, all the way down to the 3rd division with the amount of wages they would have to trim, because they are spending ended
up in the 4th, around the 3rd.
Yeah, you're right. West Ham is spending like a top 8 side, and they are nowhere near that or showed that form last year. Brighton in 19th, I just think they feel like Bournemouth to me. That's the type of team I think we're looking at there, and I think West Brom doesn't have the firepower to stay up. Those are my 5 contenders, and then my 3 relegation picks.
Okay, I think that's interesting. I think Fulham, you brought up a good point there. I think Fulham are a side managed well by Scott Parker. They were struggling a bit. He came in, former player, great player, may I add, played for Newcastle as well. Yep. Great player. I think they'll do all right. And I think they've done smart business this time, bringing in Lamina on loan, bringing in Areola on loan from PSG. With a Real Madrid background. That's a good signing. However, the other 10 players in front of the goalkeeper are still going to do a lot of work. Anthony Robertson's a great player. Wigan are unfortunately having a fallout, and I really hope for their sake that they don't go into more administration trouble. But he's a good player. I think this Tete guy from Lyon, he's quite a good player as well at the back. We'll see what happens. They've got rid of a lot of weight off their payroll. Interesting. But, this is part of football. I think they'll do all right. I think Mitrovic is quite good. Again, ex-Newcastle can play. Absolute nutter, but he'll bang in some goals if he wants. But if I was to go with the bottom 3, I think West Brom have had tough business in this. They've got a good goalkeeper in Sam Johnson, who's done very well with them. You've now lost, remember, half of that team that brought them up were on loan, so a lot of them have returned to their clubs, and that's always tough. You've lost some. Ollie Burke was a good player. He scored a lot of goals for them last year. Ended up at Sheffield United. You've now lost your top goal scorer going into your massive challenge of a place where you did do quite well in the Prem. But now you've really got to keep this up. But besides that, I know David Button as a backup goalie from Brighton. He'll do well to back up Sam Johnson. Mateus Pereira might be all right from Sporting, but besides that, I don't know if West Brom convinced me. So I have them going down. West Ham, I think, are going to take that 18th spot. I don't think they'll be next, but I don't know. Who would I put there? Palace are going to have to really fight this year, I think. There's some big names in this team. Leeds, I think, will do all right. I think Fulham could stay like you. They might be in that 17th, just floating above. But I think you might be onto something there. It's either I think I'm between Brighton. I'm not sure if their luck's going to run out. They're not bad, but I don't know if their luck's going to run out here. They lost, Aaron Murray. They've lost Glenn Murray. They've lost Shane Duffy. They were three big powerhouse names for them that they've now lost. They've got Matt Ryan in goal, but Lallana was a good signing, so hopefully he finds form.
Yeah,
I think I'm between Brighton and Palace for that other spot down there, and it'll be close. But I tell you what, though, Zach, for the first time I've ever said, there's not a definite three that I can go, yeah, they're going to struggle. I really think this is going to be really close the entire year, and I can't wait. I truly can't wait. I think Villa have also done good business buying Ollie Watkins from Brentford, who were unlucky not to come up. I think we'll be all right. But I also think as well, when you mentioned Newcastle before, I hope Newcastle stay up. They need to stay up ultimately, more than anything. But, you're bringing in another goalkeeper behind Dubravka, Mark Gillespie. A bit weird, my old neighbour was called Mark Gillespie in Newcastle, and he was a diehard Newcastle fan. So I saw that, I was like, what? Mark's got what? And I was like, oh, wait, never mind, different Mark Gillespie. He'll do all right behind Dubravka, but will Darlow stay there? I don't know. Looking as well, bringing in Callum Wilson, Ryan Fraser, bring Bournemouth to them, let alone the idea of Matt Ritchie to Bournemouth. That went south, just bring Bournemouth to him. Ryan Fraser was fourth in assists 2 years ago, behind the likes of De Bruyne, which is an incredible stat, and I hope he finds some form with Newcastle. Jamal Lewis is a great player as well, young, passionate, interested, and from Norwich. I think they'll do all right, but getting rid of some of the weight too that they've needed to get off the payroll. And I really think the ownership, Mike Ashley out. He has to go. He's ruined the club for long enough. It's ridiculous, the saga going on with the whole takeover issues. I won't get into that. But, looking at some of the weight here, personally, my friend growing up, he lived next door to Freddie Woodman. He's a great pickup for Swansea again in goal between the sticks. Did very well, was unfortunate to get injured in the playoffs. And I wish him the best. Robbie Elliott, good goalkeeper, too old, didn't make it. Did all right for a bit. He's gone. Jack Colback, complete waste of space and time and money. Don't know why they even bothered in the first place. Kel Watts, young enough, he'll do all right. Stick him on loan. And the rest of them are young loan guys. Nathan Harker, he'll go. He'll be all right. But I think Newcastle have enough here with Callum Wilson, who loves scoring goals for fun against West Ham, and that's week 1. St. Maximin behind him, I think, is really good. And Dubravka, when he's back from injury, fantastic in goal. As well as, quite honestly, Jamal Lascelles, I think, is a true leader. He may not be the best centre-half in the world, but he's passionate and he cares. And I think he'll do very well for the club. And I think Newcastle will have a half-decent season.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just so crazy, like you said, with everything with the takeover and Mike Ashley. The Newcastle fans think they're finally free, only to be.
Sorry, shouldn't have said that.
No, it's okay. I mean, we can blur it out if you would like.
Probably should.
Okay. But I mean, it's just tumultuous because, I mean, and we've seen it, I remember in middle school and parts of high school, Newcastle were right up there with a lot of the top 5, and it's been, they went down obviously and came back up, and it's been a mess. And I assume as a resident, it's just heartbreaking to see a club like that really struggle.
It is, especially I remember going to I went to school very close to St James's Park, and you'd go watch the odd game. I remember the year they went down, 2009. It was a disgrace. And I remember being childish and laughing at first. And I thought, oh, God, this is terrible. Granted, they were winning games for fun in the Championship. They did well. But, there was a joke back then with Sunderland, who ironically got sunk by this team, who used to sing at them, have fun playing Burton Albion away. But then Sunderland got relegated by them. And they're having a nightmare. They can't get out of League One. And it's quite funny. There was a brilliant chant to make a bit of a laugh and light in this, as I'm sure everyone's aware of, Sunderland Till I Die on Netflix, who I have a bit of respect for the club. They're not my favourite. They're all right. Had some really tough times that I don't wish on anyone, really. But when you play Newcastle United's U21s in the what I know is the Johnson's Paint Trophy, I'm blanking out on the name now, basically, of what they call it, the Challenge Cup, basically, for the lower league, third division, fourth division team. They play the Newcastle United 21s versus Sunderland's first team. Sunderland win. Start chanting something along the lines of the best team in the North East. To which, what did you expect when the chant is, at least we're not on Netflix, was coming your way? There's not really any coming back from that one. And I think that's the camaraderie, and although it's a joke here of chanting, at least we're not on Netflix, at someone about being so bad, but that's the camaraderie Newcastle has that I think as a club are able to bring forward and say, yeah, let's get behind this. Although we've been through some really crap times and really tough times, let's move forward and let's roll on, stay in the Prem, let's prove a point. And I think there's a lot of talent there. They have a good academy system. They have a pipeline. I trust Steve Bruce. I remember walking his Bulldogs once when I had my dog Little when he was managing Sunderland. But he likes the North East. I think he cares, and I think he'll do quite honestly quite well. And I wish Newcastle the absolute best. And it'll be again a really interesting team to watch on the side here. And I think Callum Wilson will be great for them.
Yeah, great pickup for sure there. Okay, now that you've had your Newcastle time. Different perspective, man. I mean, it's true. Like all the stuff you said, like I know we've talked about it at like soft air and stuff. I mean, it's completely true, and I love that you're able to share it. So let's recap some of our picks. We just did the relegation stuff, so we don't really need to get back into that. But let's go through top 4 and title winner here, and then we will get on out of here near the hour mark.
Go ahead, Zach. I want to hear your predictions. I liked what you had better than mine, so I'm interested to hear.
All right, I have the boring pick of Manchester City for first place, which is actually they're the favorites actually over Liverpool. I just looked it up at most sportsbooks. If you're curious of that nature, Manchester United in second. Gotta be them or Chelsea. Third Liverpool, fourth Chelsea, and then to round out just the top 6, fifth Tottenham, 6 Arsenal, and then you have the last European spot between Wolves, Leicester, Everton, and then the rest. You, sir.
I think that's pretty close to me. I had Chelsea on top, with City following, Liverpool third, and United fourth. I have Arsenal fifth, Spurs sixth, and hopefully Everton seventh. And God, I hope they come between them and end up in sixth or even higher. And then ultimately, there's the rest below that. Yeah. I think it'll be interesting. And, best of luck to the teams. Let's enjoy this season coming forward. Get behind it. And there's one other note I wanted to bring up here. I'm not sure if the viewers will know, but the Premier League released that they will be wearing a "Say No to Racism" below their icons of the Premier League on their arms this season on their sleeve. And that's a really important point that I think is really something that I'd like to bring up in the podcast. Is that absolutely, although we talk football and we laugh and whatnot, anyone can play football no matter of what colour, gender, etc. you may be. And there is absolutely no room for racism. And that's for every fan out there as well. Enjoy it. Enjoy the skill. Enjoy the performance of what's on the television that we can all watch and adore. But absolutely no room for racism.
I think that's the perfect note to leave out on. I cannot add anything more to that. That's beautiful. And I agree 100,000% as well. So there we go. On the dawn of a new Premier League season, when it feels like the last one just ended, because it almost literally did. It's always exciting. I'm super excited. I know we'll be texting throughout the weekend, saying how wrong we are about everything we just said today. But until then, Will, thank you again for coming on. Can't wait to do it again soon as we get some games to watch here. Super excited. Take care, my friend.
Thank you very much, Zach. It's always a pleasure. Take care, my friend.